Hey guys, it's Dan here again, bringing you another episode of Baking with Dan, and today I want to share with you guys one of my most requested recipes and one of my favorite and most simple recipes, and it's actually a recipe for my fudge icing. I came up with this recipe pretty early on in my baking career, and a lot of people really love it. It's one of my favorite frostings, so I'm going to show you guys how to make this bakery style fudge icing right now. So the ingredients I have on my table are some simple syrup, which is sugar, water, corn syrup, and a little bit of coffee, instant coffee powder, and I boiled this in the microwave until the sugar dissolved. I have some butter, some vanilla, some melted chocolate chips, some water, 2 whole pounds of confectioner sugar. I know, it's a lot of sugar. And in my mixer bowl I have some cocoa, some vegetable oil, and some shortening. And what makes this fudge icing different than chocolate buttercream is that it's richer, it's thicker, and the mixture of fats, so the butter, the shortening, the oil, all of that together along with corn syrup and simple syrup and melted chocolate really gives this fudge icing a really unique texture. So it's a lot different than a chocolate buttercream. It's not as airy, it's thick, it's really delicious. So if you guys haven't tried this recipe, I really recommend you do. So we're going to start by making fudge base with our vegetable oil, shortening, cocoa, and more corn syrup in the bowl. And I have a 1/4 cup of corn syrup here, and I actually sprayed this. I sprayed this measuring cup with cooking spray to make it a little bit easier to get all of my corn syrup out. All right, so I'm going to put this on my mixer with my paddle attachment and just mix it until it forms like a doughy, cocoa-y paste. Alright, so you guys can see now that this is like a really thick paste. This is fudge base. Alright? This is where this whole frosting starts, with this fudge base right here. And I really would urge you guys to use a really good quality cocoa. I actually use a high-fat cocoa. It's imported from the Netherlands. It's imported from Holland. Really good quality. If you can stay away from Hershey's or something lower quality like that, I really would recommend that you do that. So once you have your fudge base, just give the mixer and the paddle a little bit of scrape. Just give the mixer bowl a little scrape before you move on. Alright, we're going to take our whole hunk of softened butter here. We want this really soft. Add it to the mixer bowl. Alright, so once my butter's really well creamed in, I'm going to add my vanilla. I'm going to add half of this simple syrup, which I've pre-prepared and it's cooled down. Mix this on low at first because it's a pretty liquidy mixture at this point. Alright, so I add the rest of my simple syrup. Try not to spill it all over the table like I just did. Alright, so at this point, you'll see that the mixture is really smooth and really shiny. It's awesome, alright? Still have to add all of our sugar, we have to add our chocolate, and we have some water to thin this icing down. So, turn it back to the bowl here. I'm going to add half of the confectioner sugar. If your sugar is lumpy, you definitely want to sift it. Starting the mixer on the low. So the mixture's going to thicken up pretty quickly. And this is kind of your final chance to get rid of any lumps that may be in this mixture. So before I add any more liquid, I'm going to turn the mixer to high and give it a good beat for about 15 to 20 seconds. Okay, so half my sugar is in here. I'm going to scrape my beater and scrape my bowl. Okay, I'm going to add just a couple tablespoons of water here. And I'm going to add the rest of my sugar. So I'm going to give this a scrape, and you'll see now that we have a really thick mixture. So The icing is done at this point, but we have to thin it down with water. And we're also going to add a little bit of melted chocolate, just to really kick up the chocolatiness and the fudginess of this icing. So I started with about 6 tablespoons of water here, just cool water. I'm going to add about half of it and blend. I have some melted chocolate chips here. You definitely don't want this piping hot, but you don't want your chocolate too cool, because anytime you add really cool chocolate to icing, you risk the chocolate setting up before it blends in all the way. So add your chocolate all at once, and then fairly quickly turn the mixer on, get it all blended together. Awesome. Alright, so at this point, before I add my final amount of water, I'm going to take a look at the mixture. So this icing looks really awesome. This would be a great consistency to fill a cake. It's really thick. Has a nice shine to it. So this is awesome fudge icing here, guys. But you know what? I'm using this to frost cupcakes. So I'm going to thin it down just a little bit with the remaining amount of water. Awesome. So I added about 2 tablespoons more water. And it really made this icing even creamier. I think this is definitely ready to frost my cupcakes now. So I've got an 18-inch pastry bag here. Fit it with a 1M star tip. You could use any tip you want. You could use an open star tip. You could also just use a pastry bag with the end cut off. And I've got some chocolate cupcakes here, pre-baked. You can get the recipe for this chocolate butter cake on my blog as well. So these are completely cool. Nice, delicious mounds of this fudge icing. And if you want, you can finish these off with some sprinkles. Everybody loves some colorful sprinkles, right? So there you guys have it. Bakery style fudge icing from Baked by Dan. Make sure you subscribe to my channel, guys. Like this video. If you have any questions or any issues while you're making this recipe, comment in the video below. Let me know how much you loved it. And make sure you head over to bakingwithdan.com to get the amounts for this recipe and to see a bunch of other amazing recipes. Thanks.